Hello and God bless you and welcome. We are about to enter chapter 7 of Romans. I'm Gene Maddox, pastor at Onico United Methodist Church, and behind the camera is Frank Saber, and we are privileged to be with you today. Very, very privileged. I want to just say a word before I begin here. I just got done doing a memorial service, and every time I do a memorial service, it just reminds me how brief life can be, and how we really don't know what the next day brings. So I just want to encourage you to give some special love to the people around you today. If you haven't told them, if there's somebody in your life that you need to tell you love them, don't wait till tomorrow. Tell them today. If the Lord's been putting on your heart to witness to someone, and there's some way to share Christ with them today, do it today. Do it today. We often live with the assumption that we're all going to be around here for 500 more years, and it just isn't so. It just isn't so. So make today the very best day you can. Obey God fully. Love God completely. Love others, forgive others, and share Christ with others today. Okay. Romans chapter 7. I'm going to read verses 1 through 13 and then comment on it. Romans 7 is a bit of a difficult chapter, quite honestly. But we will get to it, and we will do it with God's help. Here we go. Chapter 7, verses 1 through 13. I invite you to join with me. Or do you not know, brethren, for I am speaking to those who know the law, talking to Jews, that the law has jurisdiction over a person as long as he lives. For the married woman is bound by law to her husband while he is living. But if her husband dies, she is released from the law concerning her husband. So then, if while her husband is living she is joined to another man, she is called an adulteress. But if her husband dies, she is free from the law, so that she is not an adulteress, though she is joined to another man. Therefore, my brethren, you also were made to die to the law through the body of Christ, so that you might be joined to another, to him who was raised from the dead, in order that we might bear fruit for God. For while we were in the flesh, the sinful passions which were aroused by the law were at work in members of our body to bear fruit for death. But now we have been released from the law, having died to that by which we were bound, so that we serve in the newness of the Spirit, and not the oldness of the letter. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? May it never be. On the contrary, I would not have come to know sin except through the law. For I would not have known about coveting if the law had not said, "You shall not covet." But sin, taking opportunity through the commandment, produced in me coveting of every kind. For apart from the law, sin is dead. I was once alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin became alive and I died. And this commandment, which was to result in life, proved to result in death for me. For sin, taking an opportunity through the commandment, deceived me and through it killed me. So then, the law is holy, and the commandment is holy and righteous and good. Therefore, did that which is good become a cause of death for me? May it never be. Rather, it was sin, in order that it might be shown to be sin by effecting my death through that which is good, so that through the commandment sin would become utterly sinful. He's dealing here again with the reason for the law. And for the person who has spend all their life trying to become right with God by the law, for them to be told that what you've been trying to do all your life is going to end up in a dead end, is not going to work, would be a very hard thing to hear. And so then what is the purpose of the law? And Paul he makes a couple of statements here. He says, first of all, just as when a woman is married and the husband dies, then she's free to marry another. And Paul is saying here, when we come to Christ, we die to the law. Meaning what? We die to the belief that keeping the law can make us right with God. We die to the law. The law is no longer the means by which we come to righteousness. So we die to it. Well, we are now free to marry another, to be joined to another. And by dying to the law, we are now free to be joined to Jesus Christ. So that still doesn't answer the question, but why the law? And Paul goes on to say, the law shows me what a great sinner I am. The example he gives us here is, if the law had not said, do not covet, I wouldn't have known not to covet. But the law does more than that. By saying do not covet, it arouses something within me, something that's already there, something sinful, that might make me want to covet even more. So Paul says, well, does that mean the law is bad? And the answer is no. He says, the law is only good, and the commandment is good. What is bad is the sin that is within us. And that's where we go back to the previous chapter, Romans chapter 6, how God deals with sin. But I think the primary way he deals with sin is when we are joined to Christ. The more of Christ we have, or the more Christ has of us, the less need we have for sin. Sin obviously meets, in a sick way, some kind of need in our life. But as we walk with Christ, we discover that Christ can meet that need in a far greater way. And so we can then tell that part of sin, you can go now. I don't need you anymore. I don't want you anymore. And that's what Paul is trying to tell us here. He wants us to be completely joined to Christ. He doesn't want anything to get in the way of Christ, even the law. That's where he wants you. That's where he wants me. After all, he is the bridegroom, and we are his bride. He's a jealous bridegroom. He wants his bride. He wants you and he wants me, all for himself. And he intends to have it that way. Aren't you glad? Isn't it wonderful to be chosen by the bridegroom king to be his bride? It is. Thanks be to God. And unless the bridegroom king comes back tomorrow, we'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. Bye-bye.